Hello today, this is Randy with Excel for Freelancers, and today we have a very cool training video where we are going to teach you how to give a single click sort on any column in a cell simply with one click to sort. So please stay tuned, it's going to be a great training. Okay, excellent. Let's get started here. I've got a table here with some names, 15 records in the table, all the way from E5 on over to O19. Okay, I've also got the first two columns, A and B, for some admin area. And basically the idea is that we are going to sort this table from either of the first three columns. That would be the last name, first name, or the appointment date. So what we want to do is we want to single click on these cells and then have it sort either ascending or descending from either cells. And we also want a little marker to show whether it's ascending or descending. So to do that, what we'll need to do is we're going to actually add an invisible or semi-invisible shape over these three different cells. So let's go ahead and start with that. We'll go ahead and insert a shape, and we will use the rectangle shape here. And we'll go ahead and put that over our last name, directly over it, and it'll be covered. So we'll go ahead and change that shape fill. Maybe we'll add a color, but what we want to do is we really want to add a transparency. We don't want to hide the text. So under the shape fill and under more fill colors, what we're going to do is change that transparency to maybe about 85 or so %. Okay, and then that's going to give us our color. And the reason we're changing it to 85% and not 100% is because we can also add an effect to that and perhaps give it a little bit of depth. And we can add a depth by doing this. And although very slight, and on yours you can make it as dark or as differentiated as you want, but it adds a little depth that makes it look a little bit more like a button, which is helpful. Okay, and we want to do this same shape, and we don't need an outline on this, so we'll remove the outline. Okay, and we want to do this same shape for the other two columns as well. So we'll do Control D, and that's going to duplicate our shape, and then we'll just drag it on over to here, and then we want to make this the same width and height. Okay, the height is pretty good. We'll set the width across. And the other one is about right here. And then we'll go ahead and move that over to where we want to place that as well. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then basically what we want to do is we want to make sure that all these three shapes are set to move and size with the columns. So that way if you increase the columns, the shape sizes as well. And so to do that, we're just going to select all three. I'll use my triangle, but you can also, if you don't have that, you can also just hold down the Control, click, click, and click. Okay, we're going to go right click and size and properties, and then we're going to make sure that under the properties we have move and size with cells. So it's already set, it should be on yours, but if not, we want to move and size, because when we move these columns or when we resize, we want the shapes to move as well with them, and so that's really helpful and also important. Okay, next up is we are going to associate these three shapes with three different cells. Okay, so we'll go ahead and do that on the left side because it's not necessarily something you'd want a user to see. So once we add them here, we'll go ahead and hide these columns at the end. So we can add that here. So we'll go ahead and put in last name, first name, and appointment date. Okay, and we'll just go ahead and put some borders around that so we can clearly see. And so basically what I want to do is I want to assign a value, or actually in this case a shape, with this, so that this shape is tied with this cell. And we can do that simply by clicking on the shape, going up to the formula bar, clicking equals, and then selecting that cell B5. Okay, and we want to do that same thing here, and we want to make this B6. Okay, because with whatever is in that cell, we want it to appear on that shape, B6, and for the appointment date we'll assign that to B11, so equals B11, B7, excuse me. Okay, so now we've associated, so now anything we put in here, right, is going to show up here, and that's what we want. Okay, obviously we don't want the letters. What do we want? Well, we want something that denotes ascending or descending, and we can find those shapes in the insert and symbol. Okay, symbol, and under the font of Wingdings, make sure you select Wingdings, right? You will find some triangles, some arrows here. Down here you can use bold or black. We'll go ahead and use you can use anything you want, so we'll use the up arrow. So insert one of those, insert, and close that, and then we're going to go into first name, and we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to insert the descending one. We've already entered the ascending, which is the down arrow, and then insert. Okay, so basically what we have here is we have one for the ascending and one for descending. Okay, and now the ascending here is basically this E, what looks like the apostrophe or accent mark over it, and then the descending is also an E, but it's got a bit of a, looks like a little bit triangle or a reverse V over it. So that's going to be very helpful for us to know that. Okay, so and you see here it's got it marked here, but it's not showing up as the right font within the shape, and that's okay, because what we're going to do is we're going to set the font for these shapes. So once again, holding down the control, clicking on all three, and now we're going to go back in home. We're going to set the font of this shape. Okay, remember there's a font of the cell and the font of the shape, and we're setting the font of the shape. We've got the shape selected, not the cell, and then we're going to go ahead and just set this to Wingdings, right? Because that's the same font that we want. Okay, good. Now we've got it, but we don't want it to appear there. We want it to appear on the right side, okay, and we want it to appear on the bottom. Okay, but the reason it's not showing the bottom is because there's spacing. So to do that, we'll go ahead and right click, go into size and properties, okay, or format the object would work just fine, and under the text box here, this option here, we want to set most of these to 0. 0 on the right. The right will go 0.02, add a little bit of spacing on the right, but you can set it to 0. No spacing on the top, no spacing on the bottom. We don't want any internal margins there at all. Okay, then go ahead and close that. And that looks good. It's a little bit big, so we'll go ahead and lower the font down, let's say to 9, so we have a little bit smaller of an arrow there. And we've done it to all three, so we're good to go. Okay, now we've got the look, and now let's focus on the action. And the idea is that when a user clicks on the last name, we want it to sort either ascending or descending based upon the current status of the sort. So if we're currently have a status of ascending, then we want to set it to descending. Like currently it's set to ascending, so we want to set it to descending. And it would be the same rule for every column. We just want to make the opposite of whatever it currently is when a user clicks on that. So we can go ahead and do that now through the VBA model. And you can get to the VBA model by going to File and then Options. If you don't have the quick link, you can go to Customize Ribbon and then make sure your developer is selected. If you do have it, you can have it go to here and click Visual Basic, or using the shortcut keys Alt F11. Okay, and using that shortcut key, what we can do now is we're going to go ahead and create a macro that's going to help us run that sorting. So why don't we go ahead and do that now? And now we will go ahead and go into this code here, and we will insert a module. Okay, and then we'll give that module a name, so it's always important. So we'll just call it table sorting, no spaces. Okay, and now our first macro is going to be, we're going to be sorting that first name. So why don't we just go ahead and give that a name, it's going to be the last name sort. Okay, that's going to be the name. And the idea is that we want to basically take all of the data in this table and sort it, right? But your table at any given time might have a different number of rows in it. We only want to sort the rows with data. So we want to get the last row with data. In this case, we're going to use column E. And to get that, we just need to write a little bit of code. And we're going to want to do that for each macro. So to do that best, we need to set a particular dimension or dim statement. And in this case, we're going to do it before the macro, because what that's going to do is allow us to use it for each of the 3 macros that we're going to write. So we'll go dim last row as long, okay? And notice this is before the macro, so that means we don't have to write it in each macro. It's used for all of them, which is going to be very helpful, so we don't have to keep rewriting. Okay, and then also we're gonna be focused on sheet 1 here, so we can write with sheet 1. Okay, that way we don't have to define sheet 1 anymore within the code, as long as it's within the with and end with. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is define what is the last row. The last row of data. In our case, it's 19, but we may have 30 at times, we may have 50, right? We don't want to go and change the code every time. We want Excel to tell us what the last row. So we can define that simply by writing a single line of code. Last row equals dot range, and the reason we can do dot range is because we've already got sheet defined here. So we don't need to write sheet 1 in front of it because we've already said with sheet 1, so we know. Okay, and then we're going to go E because that's the column we want, and then we'll just pick a high number, which would be the maximum number of rows your table might have. Okay, so make sure it's within that limit. You know, if you're going to be putting in 10,000 rows, make sure your number's higher than that. And then close parentheses dot end. Okay, Excel up dot row. Okay, this is gonna tell us. This is going to tell Excel to look at all the rows and tell us what is the last row of data. In this case, Excel is going to return 19. Okay, so that's very helpful. And if there's no data, we don't want to mess with this. You know, if we run sort, so what we want to do is we want to tell Excel if there is no data, we want to make sure you set the last row to 5, just in case there's no data, because I've messed up some tables before by not defining this. So basically, what I want to say is if the last row is less than 5, then last row equals 5. And what this does is it keeps errors from coming up and keeps your formatting intact. So that's kind of a good little protection that you've got there. And now what we want to do is when we're sorting with the last name, what we want to do is we want to clear out any other sorts that may have taken place before. We may have sorted the first name before, we may have sorted the appointment date before. So we want to clear out any sorts, and to do that we want to clear out these 2 fields. Remember, this is tied to the first name, this is tied to the appointment. So we want to clear out anything that's been sorted in this. So we can do that by writing a line of code as well, and we can do that just by saying dot range, okay, B6, B7 dot clear contents. Okay, that's going to clear any previous sorts. And the reason we don't want to do that with B5 is because we need to know what the current sort is so that we can do the opposite. So we don't want to erase that just yet because we need to do the opposite. So we need to know what currently is being sorted there. That's why we're not going to clear out B5. Okay, so now what we can do is we can write some code to sort. We're going to clear the sort fields currently. We can do that by dot sort fields, and then dot clear. Okay, that'll clear any sorts and that's an important step when you're doing sorting. Okay, the next is we need to decide whether we're going to sort last name either ascending or descending. And of course, it's based on the current sort. It's based on this value here, right? It's based on this value right here. So let's copy that, Control C. Okay, so basically if it's this value, we want to make it this. If it's that, so basically we're going to just write some code to say that. So we can do that here. If dot range B5 dot value equals, and then in the quotation marks, then we're going to paste that, and that's the answer. If it equals that, or if it's nothing, or, so we can write that here, dot range B5 equals, value equals empty, then, okay, then what do we want to do? Then we want to set the opposite. First, we want to change it to the opposite, right? So we want to go dot range B5. So we're going to change the value to whatever the opposite equals, and so we're going to go ahead and copy this, right? We want it, if it's this, right, we want to change it to this, the descending. So let's go ahead and copy that, okay? And now we'll go ahead and back into the VBA, and we want to then write down descending, so we'll go ahead and copy and paste that into there. Okay, now we are ready to write the sort range, and we'll go ahead and move this over. We're going to need some extra space here, and we can close this out. We don't need that. Okay, so now we're going to write the sort for the ascending, and we can do that by clicking on the period and then sort dot sort fields. Okay, and then add. We're going to give it a key, and the key is going to be the first cell in that sort range equals to dot range, okay, and that will be E5 because that's the first cell in that sort field. That's the top row, the first cell of data. Okay, E5, and then we're going to say sort on, and the next one sort on, and then equals values. We're going to be sorting on the values in this case. So XL sort on values. Then the next is the ascending. In this case, we're going to be sorting on ascending. Okay, so we want to put the order is equal to XL ascending, ASCENDING. Okay, and then lastly, we want to put in the data option. And in this case, it's going to be the data option is normal. Okay, data option equals XL sort normal. All right, let me go ahead and take a look at that spelling. It looks correct. XL, so we've got sort on the values, the order is XL ascending, and the data option is XL normal. Okay, so we've got it set for ascending, but now what about if it's descending? If it's the current is ascending, we want to change it to descending. So we're going to go ahead and put else. Okay, that means if it's not this, we need to change it to this. Okay, so if it's not this, if it's not ascending, we want it to go to descending. So we're going to go ahead and paste that here, then range L, and then we need to write the code for descending. And all we're going to do is just simply copy and paste this here, and then we're going to change it to descending. So basically we're saying if it's ascending, make it descending. If it's descending, make it ascending. Just switching the opposite. Okay, and we just need to change that to descending. Okay. And I think we're good. Now all we need to do is add in the actual code that is going to sort that. Okay, that's going to do our actual sorting. Okay, so we can write that in with dot sort. Okay, because we've already got the sheet dot sort. And what do we want to do? We need to set the range. What is the range of the table? Okay, well we've defined the last row, so we can write in set range. Okay, and then the dot range E5, right, because that's the topmost corner of our table, through, and then remember the last row of our table is O. Okay, so we'll go ahead and put that in with the last row of O. We can do O, and then and quotation marks and last row, because the last row is going to be variable, so we want to put it in the last row. Okay, so now that we've got the last row as variable, we can go ahead and finish off this sort, okay, by simply entering apply. So it's going to apply that sort. Okay, and that's it, and we have already got the end with. Okay, so now that should work. What we want to do is we want to take this macro, copy it. We don't have to copy it, but it's just an easier way. And we want to apply this macro to this specific shape here. Okay, so we can right click it, click assign macro, and since it's the only macro we have, we don't need to really copy and paste it. But if we have many macros, it helps from searching it. So now we're going to click OK, and now on click, all right, it's working great. So now you see this arrow switch, and it's switching. Perfect. Now all we have to do is copy this and paste it in 3 times and make a few changes. So I'll show you how to do that. Okay. And all we're going to do is go back into the VBA here and let's increase this a little bit. Copy the current macro and make a few changes. Okay. We're going to paste it, and then we're going to change this. We definitely don't want macros with the same name, so we'll change that to first name sort. Okay, and in this case, we don't want to clear out the first name. We want to leave this in as it is, but we want to clear B5 and B7. So let's go ahead and make that update to this macro, and we'll go back into the VBA. And we will change this from, get rid of that space there, change this from B6 to B5, okay? And then our focus is going to be on B6, okay? In this case, it's going to be on B6. So we want to make sure that all of our focus is on this field here, because the first name is tied to this B6 field. So when we go back in to our VBA, we just make the updates. So we change this to B6, change this to B6. This one, there's going to be 4 instances, and this one. And there's one more change we want to make. We're not going to be sorting on column E5. It's going to be F5, which is the next column over. So we're going to change this to F. And we're going to change this one to F, okay? And that's pretty much it. So now we can assign the first name sort. All we had to do is make those. It's actually a few, just a few changes. And now we can go back in and right click, assign the macro, and we're going to assign it to the first name. And now we can try that. We go ahead and click on there. Perfect. Okay, so it's cleared these two out, and now we're sorting. And all we have to do is make the same exact changes for the appointment date. So we'll go ahead and do that now. And then we'll copy it, and then we'll go ahead and paste it in. And then we're going to call this appointment date, change the macro name, and in this instances we are going to keep B7, right? Keep B7 and clear out B5 and B6. B7 is our key range, so we're going to change these 4 instances to B7. Okay, and the column we're sorting is going to be G, so we got to change this to G. Okay, just make those few changes. Now all we need to do is assign that macro to this. Right click, and you can also click the N to quickly assign the macro, and appointment date sort. Okay, good. Now we click appointment date. We're sorting nice. We can sort by any field, ascending or descending, and you may probably want to hide these rows so you have a nice clean table. And that's it. That's how you take just a few lines of code and you make a single click sort on any column or any row. You can duplicate this for your tables. I hope you like this video. Please share and like as much as you can. I would love that. And thanks so much for watching.